young Conservatives and Conservative-minded individuals. I'm completely honoured today to be joined by the wonderful Conservative MP for Kettering, Mr. Philip Hollobone. Across the course of his life, Mr. Hollobone has been a teacher, a soldier, a banker and a political activist. He has always stood up for speaking one's mind and has recently pledged to #StandUpForBrexit. Most people watching will be young, politically engaged Conservatives, but I thought if we could start from the beginning, could you explain what it is an MP does and how you find, what does your daily routine look like, or your weekly routine?
An MP's job is a lot less glamorous than I think most people might believe.
Right.
The best bit of the job actually is the casework. So
Right.
it's helping ordinary people who bump up against bureaucracy in one form or another overcome the hurdles they face. And that might be problems with benefits, problems with housing, schooling, healthcare, interactions with the police, you name it, I get it. But actually helping those people to solve those problems, sometimes an MP can just be the catalyst for the change that those people need, and that's the most rewarding part. The other big part is making sure that you turn up to work here at the Palace of Westminster.
Right.
Because when it comes to parliamentary votes, there's no proxies. You can't have a replacement unless you're here to vote in person. No one else can vote on behalf of the constituents that you represent. So turning up to work actually is something that a lot of MPs find difficult to do, but I try and make it a rule that if the House sits, I do my best to be here and vote as often as possible.
Right, that makes you very, very busy, presumably, if you're travelling from Kettering.
I think all MPs, but all young people, anyone in work, we're all busy nowadays. All of us, no matter whether we're Theresa May or Philip Hollobone, we only have 24 hours in each day, and the important thing is to make the most of those 24 hours.
Yeah.
Now, I think MPs like to give the impression that they're mega busy and haven't got time to do this or that, but actually all of us, doesn't matter who we are, where we are, what we do, we can all be as busy as we want to be and fill those 24 hours as productively as possible.
Yeah, well, and clearly, you're someone who devotes a lot of time to others. I mean, you've just given us a tour of the Commons and the Lords and stuff, which I think is a service to the kind of MP that you are. Conservatism and the people who believe in it are sort of under attack, aren't they, at the moment? There's this as you say, this collusion between a Remainer Prime Minister, a very, very biased civil service and a very, very biased Treasury. It's very difficult, isn't it, to be a Conservative at the moment. It's very difficult to you're under so much pressure, to sort of lie down and take the sort of beating that it seems that Liberals want this country to go through.
And over all this is a hugely biased broadcast media, especially the BBC, who are demonstrably biased in their presentation of Brexit.
Yeah, the Brussels Broadcast Corporation.
Well, indeed.
Yeah.
And a group of us have gone to see the head of news on 2 occasions. And
right.
He's admitted that he has no obligation to present balanced coverage of this issue, and so no wonder the British people are becoming perplexed about it all. But my greatest sadness in all of this is that Brexit is a wonderful opportunity for our country to start again, to be the leading nation in the world, advocating free trade. And there are all sorts of positives to Brexit, whereas at best the government's approach is a grudging acceptance of what people voted for, and somehow will make the best of it. Well, it's a wonderful new opportunity which should be seized with both hands, but we're not getting any kind of positive optimism from the government about Brexit, which they should be delivering. Brexit's a wonderful opportunity, especially for young people, because it gives young people their country back. If there's something they don't like about the country, then they can vote to change it. Instead of having our rules and regulations made in Brussels, outside of our control, now's the chance to get our country back and make our country as we would want it to be. That's the opportunity that Brexit presents. And it's all these young people who are against Brexit, who've been brainwashed into thinking that it's not possible for the fifth biggest economy in the world to be independent of the EU. Well, I've got no problem at all with people who voted to remain.
Of course.
It's a perfectly
of course.
respectable point of view.
Yes.
But what is not acceptable are the Remainers who've become Remoaners. In other words, people who voted Remain and who do not accept the result.
Yes.
Now they are, I'm afraid, are being anti-democratic. They're
Yes.
sore losers.
Yes.
Now I voted and campaigned for Brexit.
Yes.
I didn't actually think that Brexit would be voted for until the last couple of weeks. And I was always prepared to accept the result if it voted to stay in. And for me, it looked like we would vote to stay in until the last couple of weeks of the campaign. I would have been disappointed about it. I would still have complained about the interference of the EU in British national life, but I would have accepted the result. And I've been really, really disappointed by some supposedly very clever, very intellectual people who just refuse to accept the result and who look down upon those of us who voted to leave. They regard us as not educated, as prejudiced, as anti-immigrant, all sorts of reasons which they regard as unacceptable.
But this is the shocking thing, is, you know, I'm having this extremely long, boring conversation with someone my age who was talking about the possibility of food shortages under no deal, and they were kind of saying, well, you know, would you allow, you know, food shortages or medication shortages or whatever, you know, just for the sake of democracy? And you kind of think, well, that's sort of what democracy is about. You know, you've got to honour the spirit of the referendum, i.e., a proper Brexit. You know, that's because who are you to say that you don't know what people want? They know what they want. You know, it's so patronising.
Well, I really don't expect there to be food shortages.
No, me neither.
I don't expect them to be any shortages of medicine.
Yes.
And this is the worst aspect of Remoanerism. These scare stories which genuinely scare vulnerable people. So I mean, I will have elderly people in my constituency who depend on medication, who are hearing these scare stories about shortage of medicine, shortage of food in the shops, who get genuinely worried. Now it might be fun for these Remoaners to post this fake news online, but when it hits the real world of the little old lady in Kettering who's worried about her medication, then this stuff starts to get serious. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's shameful. It is,
and but it's the same. And it's not just. It's. I mean, of my generation, I think are particularly bad at it. But it's every generation with this Remoanerism of, like, you know, I've seen such irresponsible news articles from, you know, there was that joint letter from the heads of supermarkets and things warning about food shortages, and it's so scaremongering, and it's that Project Fear all over again. And I don't know how these, you know, big CEOs of these companies can live with themselves putting out these kind of warnings.
I'm afraid, though, the government is complicit in this.
Really?
Because the truth is that the government has undertaken lots of no-deal preparations. The civil service, for all its faults, is very good at doing what it's told to do. And it has been told to make really good preparations in case there's no deal. And it has been getting on with that. And if you talk to the no-deal minister, he'll say to you, we'll be fine if there's no deal. There might be some bumps in the road. We won't get everything 100% correct. But basically, we are ready as a nation for no deal. So, for example, with lorry traffic, the government has already signed something called the Common Transit Convention. And this means that if there are any new import duties or customs declarations, these can be done once the goods arrive at their destination and don't have to be done at the port of entry. So this idea that there'll be queues at the port, for example, should be complete nonsense. But the government won't jump up and down and advertise this because they're trying to scare MPs, bounce MPs into voting for a deal, and is trying to persuade them not to go along with no deal. So I'm afraid the government itself is keeping the extent of its no deal preparations, which are very well advanced. They're keeping a lot of it under wraps.
Yes, quite right, I suppose. Yes, but I suppose we've got time for one more question. It's unrelated, but my channel and our viewership asked us to ask you a question about the reintroduction of national service, which is something that I think is something that you believe in, and something that I believe in as well, as someone who had a wonderful time at school doing army cadets and that kind of thing. Do you think that our generation would be much better off, and and perhaps less likely to remone if we actually, saw action and understood what it means to make a commitment to something and that sort of thing?
Yes, so I introduced something called the National Service Bill,
Yeah.
which would require young people to do at least a year
Yeah.
of service to the country.
Yeah.
Part of the reasoning for this is that nowadays 1 in 3 babies now will live to 100 years of age.
Wow.
So people are living longer than ever before.
Yeah.
And the chances are that by the time that they get to 100, in 100 years' time from now,
Yeah.
actually they'll be very healthy.
Yes.
So when you talk about young people being in their late teens, early 20s, I mean that's less than a fifth of their life.
Yeah.
And to ask young people to give a year, perhaps 2 years, of
Yeah.
service to their country
Yeah.
out of 100 years doesn't seem to me like a very big ask.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you look at countries where there is national service, I mean, take one example, Israel. There is incredible bonding amongst young people
Yes.
because of the shared endeavour that they've had to undergo.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that every young person should go into the military, and
Sure.
there would be all sorts of alternatives to do with voluntary work, work in hospitals, charity work, social services, all sorts of caring professions, if that's what people preferred. But it would be a commitment, and they would be expected to do it.
Yes.
And if they did it, they would then enjoy a lifetime tax break of a certain amount, because they've qualified, they've given up a year of their life
Yeah.
towards their country.
Yeah.
Now, when national service was in place in this country in the 40s and 50s,
Yeah.
it helped to break down the big barrier at the time, which was class division. So you had people from the upper classes mixing with people from the middle classes and people from the working classes. And actually they found they had an awful lot in common, and they developed a respect for each other. The big divide we have in our country at the moment is race.
Right.
And we have lots of communities from one cultural background or another who frankly never mix with someone of another race or another culture. But if everyone were required, regardless of their race, regardless of their culture, regardless of their income, to actually spend a year or 2 years of their lives together,
Yeah.
I think you'll find that the divides in our country would rapidly
Yes.
disappear.
Yeah.
And people would end up respecting the other communities.
Absolutely.
And I think we badly need some of that.
I think you're right. I think making people, I mean, there must be, there's nothing that would bond people more than making them fight alongside each other. Not fight each other, obviously. Maybe the Liberals can fight each other, I don't know. But yes, I think you're right in that people aren't, there isn't enough social cohesion, is there, among certain groups? And yet, I think you can sort of get into trouble for saying that, can't you?
Just because you can get into trouble for saying something doesn't mean it shouldn't be said.
I think you're absolutely right. Yes, well, I mean, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, and I'm sure it will be watched by many people, and hopefully we can start online to make the case for conservatism among young people.